I'm Linwood Barclay, and I'm here in Lyon for Quais du Polar, and to let everyone know about my latest novel, which is Fear the Worst, which I think may just be the first thriller ever written in which the hero is a car salesman. My hero in this book, a fellow named Tim, is not at all a detective. He really is just an ordinary person in a very conventional, ordinary job. And so when his daughter goes missing and he gets dragged into a very terrible mess, he is completely ill-equipped to deal with the kind of people that he's going to run into. We have two children, both of whom are now in their 20s. My son is 28 and our daughter is 25. And I'm pleased to say that we haven't had any kind of trouble with them, the likes of which I write about. They had nothing like that. But I think that having teenagers and having children, you learn about a whole different kind of anxiety that you didn't know existed, about worrying about your children. And I think as parents, we often imagine the worst things that could happen. And I think that's what I do in these books, is I kind of imagine the worst possible things that could happen. Maybe I'm thinking if I write about them, they won't actually happen. But I think I tap into that fear that we all have when we have kids, of the kind of trouble that they could get into and what kind of secrets are they keeping from us. When our kids are younger, we want nothing for the best for them. And when our kids are really small, sometimes you don't want them to grow up. You like it, they're so adorable when they're young. And then when they hit their teen years, you want it to go as quickly as possible. Let's get through this. And you hope that, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that when the teenage years are over, that they'll know who they are, that they'll become responsible, that they'll get themselves together. And I'm pleased to report that that's how it's worked out for us. But I think that all of those years are a struggle. And it kind of reminds us of what we must have been like when we were teenagers and what we did to our own parents. And this is probably just justice that's being played out. I think that there are so many writers whose work I admire, and many authors, I read them and I'm really in awe, and I think I'm so glad that you don't have to be this good to get published. I'm glad there's still room for the rest of us, but I think that there's been no author that has influenced me more than a crime writer named Ross MacDonald, who I read in my teens and early 20s, and whose work I was really obsessed with. He wrote about a detective named Lou Archer. And I think what he did in those books, which is not uncommon now, was he managed to use the conventions of the detective novel and use it to do other things, to talk about social ills, to do social commentary, to look at environmental problems and disaffected youth. And he was taking a mystery and opening it up and doing much more with it. Now your second part.
French one?
I'm just trying to think. I feel like I'm pretty much at a loss here. I'm trying to think. I wonder if there's French authors I've read but I don't know. Oh, yeah, okay.
Si vous pouvez dire
Many years ago, I read Georges Simenon many years ago, and I liked him very much. I didn't read a lot of him. I read a few of his books. When there was a period where I was trying to read quite a number of different authors, like Nicholas Freeling and a couple of authors from Sweden, and Georges Simenon was one of those that I read, and I liked how he could do such a tight, concise story.